Hey there, and welcome to the Hidden Chest, where I talk about overlooked, underrated, or underappreciated games you might not have tried. And before we get into the adorable robot Thunderdome that is Joy Mech Fight, let's go over a little bit of history. Whether it's Halo, Dota, the second entry in the Style Savvy series, or even PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds despite the fact that it sucks, video games have had their fair share of trendsetters over the years. But compared to even these, I think the impact of Street Fighter II dwarfs the competition. People lined up outside the arcade just to get a chance to play this thing. It got a TV show, a movie, 50 games, another 50 re-releases of those games. If you don't know what a Hadouken is, congratulations, you don't exist. The popularity, of course, led to the rise of many iconic competitors: King of Fighters, Mortal Kombat, Shaq Fu. Meanwhile, Nintendo was like, we'll make our own fighting game with robots and we'll only release it in Japan on the NES right now in 1993. Anyways, after a few decades of nobody caring, Joy Mech Fight has been abruptly yanked out of the abyss of obscurity and into the modern age, thanks to the appearance of its main character as an assist trophy in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and its addition to Nintendo's online service, making it available to officially download in the West for the first time in the game's life. So I guess now's a pretty good time to talk about it. Well, Joy Mech Fight is, of course, a fighting game. Up is jump, A is punch, B is kick, holding back is guard. You can use a sweep kick to knock foes on their butts. You got a quote-unquote good punch that gives you better range and damage at the expense of speed. Then add some special moves on top and that's pretty much the gist of it. Though don't get me wrong, this game is shockingly advanced for a fighting game on the NES of all things. It controls pretty much flawlessly, the hits are really satisfying to land with crunchy sound effects and a half-second long pause after strong hits, and the AI is competent and well balanced considering the hardware. But one thing I think this game does especially well is its latent accessibility. Let's take a look at one of the character's special moves to help illustrate my point. This is the game's main character, Sukapon. Sukapon. Or as he's referred to in this translation, Sukapon. The letter U knows what it did. Anyway, Sukapon is a comedian, so all his special moves are kinda wacky. Holding down an A makes Sukapon throw a screaming disembodied clone of his head at opponents. Clicking A and B at the same time makes Sukapon throw out his head again, but this time more like a close-ranged, hard-hitting boomerang. Holding back and then hitting forward B makes Sukapon fling himself at his opponent like a spazzed-out pinwheel. And finally, he has a throw by getting close to an opponent and clicking B. The vast majority of characters have a similar throwing type move. Now, one thing you'll notice right off the bat is that inputs in Joy Mech Fight are much more simple compared to its contemporaries. Quarter circle, half circle, etc. moves do exist, but they're far less common. And the Shoryuken motion that's a really big pain for newcomers flat out isn't here at all. High and low guarding isn't really a thing, and a lot of similar special moves have identical inputs between characters, like projectiles and throws. And since all characters have 4 special moves total, it's really easy to remember them all. Plus, you know, there are only 2 buttons. Meanwhile, you can access a tutorial for every fighter from the character select screen, which shows you exactly how to pull off all their special moves and how much damage each one does. It even gives you a full-on training mode, which, believe it or not, was way ahead of its time. Street Fighter II didn't have one, and the original Mortal Kombat trilogy didn't have it either. All of this and more makes the game really easy to pick up and play, but it's not brain-dead spam city either. I think the game strikes a really good balance of it all. It also really helps that this game is just so gosh dang adorable. It's one of the best looking NES games out there, no doubt helped by the fact that it was one of the last games ever released for the thing. The character design especially is just delightful. Sure, these are war machines designed to kill for the military, but I really like the whole floating thing they've got going on. Look, if you hit a fighter too much, their head'll plop off and they have to stop everything to put it back on. The way these robots were put together is actually really impressive. See, the NES can't actually render characters this big, so each of the sections of a character's body are individual sprites that are all Frankensteined together in order to make a complete fighter. That's why all the robots are made of hovering parts and the like. It really shows how limitations can lead to creativity in design. And yes, this is the second game I've reviewed wherein the characters are robots made of a bunch of floating balls. So that's nice. The stages are pretty high quality too. They scroll infinitely and range from an amusement park, an arena with a big screen spewing non sequiturs about chickens, to literally just an episode of The Last Airbender. So yeah, this game hits a home run in nearly every category. But there's one semi-important thing we're missing here. Context. Once upon a time, there were two robot-building scientists. One day, out of jealousy, one betrayed the other and stole most of their creations. Now, many years later, he's returned with an army of evil robots to take over the world. Now, the good scientist must upgrade his remaining robot that isn't normally built for fighting to take these villains on. And you can do it in any order you want. And once you beat them, you gain their powers. And the villain has an evil lair with a big W on it. And he pilots a UFO. It looks like this. Anyways, the game's story mode is a gauntlet of 35 different robots, and the first 7 you fight will actually be reprogrammed to join your cause, making up the game's base roster of 8 characters: Sukapon, Flame, Tiger, Neo, Senju, Sasuke, Ai, and Giant. My favorite one is Neo. His beautiful face, Chun-Li kicks, and sick uppercuts temporarily distract me from the unending pain of existence. Also, if you turn his torso sideways, it kinda looks like a stupid gremlin. Anyways, after the first few fights, you'll be disappointed to find out that the remaining 28 robots don't get reprogrammed and aren't playable. Yet. See, if you beat the game's campaign on hard mode, you unlock all 24 of the regular robots you face as playable characters, and you unlock an even harder difficulty in special mode. Beat that and you unlock the 4 boss characters as playable too. That's right, this NES game from 26 years ago has a roster of 36 fighters total. And yes, a lot of these latter fighters have 1 or 2 recycled moves, but they're shuffled about in such a way that combined with all the new moves of each robot, each one feels totally unique. Well, except for 8 near the end, but I'll get into that in a bit. And if you worry that unlocking them would be too difficult, I wouldn't fret too much. The story mode gives you unlimited attempts on each fight, unlike most games of the era, so it's really just a matter of perseverance. And overcoming these crazy difficult fights, of course, feels amazing. So the game looks lovely, has a ton of personality, controls really well, and has a massive roster. What's not to love? Well, the game isn't entirely omitted from aging. For example, it isn't balanced. Like at all. The base roster of 8 is alright, even though from my experience I'm pretty sure Neo is underpowered and Flame, the flame robot who is on fire, is really good. But once you unlock the rest of the cast, it's complete bedlam. 8 of the fighters you unlock are literally just the first 8 characters, but objectively better in every conceivable way, and the boss characters are borderline obscene. They make Brawl Meta Knight look like the Venezuelan government. Of course, these characters can be used as a makeshift handicap system if you want, but either way, the game isn't really a competitive juggernaut. Another problem, if you aren't using a fan translation on an emulator and are thinking of downloading the Switch port and playing the game online, you'll have to play the game in Japanese, which kinda sucks. Part of me hopes that Nintendo translates the game and puts it on Western consoles officially, but it's Nintendo Online and that requires effort, so it ain't gonna happen. Also, this game doesn't have many modes, just verses in the campaign, but both ways to get this game basically give it to you for free, so stop complaining. Upon discovering this game, I kinda fell in love with it. Tight gameplay and truckloads of charm and personality can really take your average series to the moon and back, which just makes the story of Joy Mech Fight all the more tragic. If it was released earlier or for the Super Nintendo and had an international release, I could have easily seen this game become one of Nintendo's big IPs, their premier fighting game franchise beloved the world over. But now the best this game can get is a cameo in the Nintendo fighting game that actually succeeded. Speaking of which, on the bright side, this game's miserable failure led to the void that ushered in the existence of Smash Bros. In the first place. So maybe it was all for the best. Either way, I hope one day Joy Mech Fight can get the recognition it deserves. Maybe it could eventually even get a reboot. But until then, I guess I'll just have to settle for spreading the good word. At least we got an obscure unofficial arrangement album on CD in Japan during 2006. Also, they made a second one called version 3 for some reason, and it's so obscure that I'm pretty sure it's lost media, and I can't find any of the music anywhere. Somebody please help me find